Welcome, everybody, to the A Little Less Fear podcast. I'm your producer and host of the show, Dr. Lino Martinez. This is your motivational podcast of people's incredible journeys. Oh yeah, let's do this. Welcome back, everybody, to the A Little Less Fear podcast. Today, I would love to welcome Danika Sanchez. She's a baby whisperer, newborn education professional RN. She began her nursing career in 2018 with time spent in both the NICU and in postpartum mother-baby. This gives her a unique perspective into the relationships and bonding processes between parents and babies. Education is her passion. She not only enjoys educating parents on coming for their newborns, but continues to learn about new theories and evidence-based practice with regards to parenting and newborns. Thank you so much for being on A Little Less Fear podcast, Danika.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
This is awesome. You know, one of my good friends, she's pregnant right now with her second baby. She's a deaf mother, her and her husband. And I told her that you were going to be on my podcast, so she's really excited to see what I have to say. And for those that are tuning in for the first time, this is also on YouTube with subtitles and captions. And so I'm really excited here to really learn about what got you motivated into becoming a baby whisperer.
Baby whisperer is it's a self-given title, of course, but I have always had a thing for babies. Like, they are my people. In so much as hand me a screaming baby and I still will be the happiest person on earth. So I've always just had a knack with them. Babies love me and I love babies. And the more I've learned about how to care for them and how to help them develop, the more I'm obsessed with being a part of these lives that are so new and so innocent and so full of hope and joy and all the great things, and being able to nurture that and being able to help parents kind of find that joy as well. Because parenting is stressful and it's overwhelming, especially with your first child. So I've done a lot of things in my life. I never really knew exactly what I wanted to do. And once I raised my own kids and they were older, I sat down and decided, okay, it's time for me. I need to pick a career. What do I want to do? And working with babies was top of the list of criteria for whatever job I wanted. So after doing some soul searching, talking to people, I decided nursing school was the way to go. So I actually went back to college at age 40.
Incredible.
Took a couple of classes that I had to take before I could go to nursing school. Went to nursing school with the sole intention of being a NICU nurse. I wanted to work with those preemie babies right off the bat. Those jobs are hard to get, but I got very lucky and I did get one right out of school. So I've been basically working my dream job since.
What types of challenges did you encounter in the beginning when you went into nursing and was in the NICU?
The challenges with NICU is, well, there's a lot of information. Nursing school in general gives you a base knowledge of everything, but you really don't learn what you need to know until you get into a unit. So
hands-on.
Exactly. So, and the neonatal population, the preemie babies, they're so different. They're not just small adults. So you can't just treat them like a small adult. We're not, feeding them like an adult, just in smaller volumes. Everything about them is different. So there was a big learning curve with how to handle them the proper way to make it comfortable for them and cause the least amount of stress for them, to how to feed them, to also being able to support those parents that are in the NICU and helping them find their comfort zone and how they can interact with their baby who might still be, in the incubator. Parents are sometimes afraid to even touch the new babies, but it's important that they gain the confidence and the skills to be able to do those things. So.
Now, you mentioned that you always had a passion for babies. You feel that you were meant to do this?
I do. And I've done a million things in my life. Like, I call myself a jack of all trades, master of none, until I started doing this. Babies are the only place I've ever been really comfortable. And I really have tried a lot of different things, and I enjoy everything. I like to learn. I like to learn new things. But it wasn't until I did this that I knew like this is where I was meant to be.
And so now you're a newborn education professional. How does that differ from just a regular RN, a baby NICU RN?
So what I did, I was in the NICU for about 4 years, and then I decided to make a slight change and go up to postpartum. So postpartum is where the moms and babies go right after birth. If the baby has to go to the NICU, then just the mom goes to postpartum. The reason I wanted to do that is to expand my knowledge base a little bit, but what I found up there is that's where I really started seeing the fear in parents' eyes and the overwhelm and the anxiety for going home. So, nursing in the hospital and in the NICU is about caring for the baby, like hands on physical caring for the babies most of the time, also with the mothers, and then trying to throw in as much education as I can in the short period of time that they're there. What I get to do now, and this whole business came from trying to send those parents home and them saying, can you just come home with us? Because we don't know what we're doing and we don't feel ready for this. And I said, well, actually, I guess if I started a business, I could. So that's kind of where that came from. And the idea behind it is, nowadays, if you have a vaginal delivery in the hospital, a normal, quote unquote, normal delivery, you're only in the hospital for 24 hours. If you have a C-section, you're there for 48 hours. The whole first half of that, you're not going to remember anything I tell you because you are sleep deprived. You haven't eaten for 24 hours.
Yeah.
You've been pushing for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
So as much information as we try to give you before you leave the hospital, you're not in a state to be able to absorb it. And it's so much information.
So true.
So this way I can come to your home after you get home. You're in your own environment. You can breathe a little bit, better, a little more calm, be in your own bed, on your own couch, and we can spend a little extra time one-on-one. The other problem in the hospital is I've got, 3 or 4 sets of patients, whereas if I come to you afterwards, we can spend one-on-one time. We can do a bath together, nice and slow. I can give you all the tips and tricks. We can diaper together. We can feed together. If there's any issues, I'm there to say, you know what, let's make this little change and that kind of stuff. So I just love it. And I think all of that just is going to help that parent to decrease that anxiety and be able to enjoy the process more, as opposed to just being so terrified about making a mistake or not knowing how to do something.
Danika, I just had this memory right now when you said how to bathe the baby. So I'm very close to one of my cousins, and when her daughter's 14 now, but when her daughter was born, it was like, how long are you supposed to wait? 3 days, right? Is that before you bathe the baby?
It used to be 3. We actually only wait about 12 hours now, 12 to 24
Oh,
hours.
wow. Okay, so it's
Sometimes
changed.
immediately, depending. It depends on the situation, but.
So at the time, 14 years ago, she had to wait 3 days. And on the third day, she calls me. She's like, hey, cousin, can you come over? I'm like, what's going on? Is the baby okay? She was like, it's time to give her a bath and I need help. And I said, oh my, I don't know what to do either. So I drove over there. It was like 30, 40 minutes away, and we're giving her newborn this bath and we're both screaming. I mean, we were the baby's screaming, so we're screaming, and she's splashing water on her really quick, and the baby's screaming even more. She says, is it too hot? Is it too cold? I don't know. And it was literally a couple splashes, and it was like wrapping her up really quick. And it was fun. It was funny, but at the same time, I felt her stress because it was her first child too.
Right.
So that's really awesome that you're able to do this. You teach them how to bathe the baby. What is the right way to bathe a baby?
So there's a couple different ways to do it, but the main thing I like to teach is that we're trying to reduce stress, not just for parents, for babies too, right? So anytime that our energy gets like high and out of control,
the baby's gonna feel it.
The baby's totally gonna feel it. So babies, when they're in the tummies, they're all scrunched up and they're all in a small sack.
Cozy.
They're very comfy, right? They come out here and they're like, what the heck where's my boundaries? What's going on?
Right.
I don't like this freedom. We're like, oh, they're free. And they're like, we don't want to be free. We want to be back. So one of the things we can do with bathing is swaddle them. It's called a swaddle bath. We can swaddle them up and put them in the water. And that way they're still contained. And what we'll do is we'll get one arm out and we'll wash the one arm and then we'll put it back in the swaddle and we'll bring the other arm out and we'll do that. It's it's the complete opposite of like hurrying and splashing water on them, which I totally understand. And I give you props. I give you props for even going over to help because, you didn't know either.
No.
But that's the whole idea, is to try to, our instinct is like, do it fast. She doesn't like it. Let's hurry and do it fast and get it over with.
Right.
But that also creates stress.
Sure.
So if there's a way we can all do it slowly, smoothly, but efficiently, I mean, we don't want to take an hour, but slowly, smoothly, and trying to keep the baby comfy, that's a much better way of doing it.
And for how long does the parent typically do that? And when does a new parent know that the baby is now safe to not be swaddled during a little bath?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question. And every baby's a little bit different. It could be a couple weeks, it could be a couple months. It really is going to depend on your baby. So that's the other thing is when we come in, we're going to help you learn what works best for you and your family and how to read the cues that your baby is giving you. So it's generally only the first few weeks or so that they really are going to want that swaddle all the time, maybe even up to a couple months, like I said, depending on the baby. And again, if you never swaddle bathe your baby and you just put them in the bucket and, they'll live, it'll be fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But even that way, even if you don't do a swaddle bath, there's a way to be more calm and more methodical about things to kind of decrease the stress of the situation a little. A lot of babies love baths. So,
yes, they do. Yeah.
If you have one that don't, then you're like, let's just hurry and be done.
What about temperature? Because I'm aware that a baby's skin is very sensitive and very reactive.
Yes.
So how do you know what's the right temperature for a newborn?
That one is, there's an actual, like, right around 100, 99 to 100 degrees is kind of a good temp for them. So
it's best to literally have a thermometer in the water?
Yes, literally. And they've got some great baby thermometers now, little floating rubber duckies that are actually
cute.
like have a thermometer underneath and all kinds of fun stuff.
So cute.
There's a lot of fun stuff out there.
And so what is the difference between what you do and a babysitter or a nanny?
The biggest thing is going to be our education. We're certified. We are registered nurses. We're registered with the state of California. So we have a certain amount of training. We've gone to school. We've gotten a degree. We have to perform continuing education to maintain our licenses. So we are always paying attention to what's up, what's coming, what's new. What does the new research say? What does the new evidence say? But also, like, I work with 1 million babies every day. So I noticed this little trick. I have this little trick and I can't explain why it works, but I know that it works in this particular situation. So now I have more in my bag of tools to say, like, if you have a really kind of grumpy pants baby, let's try this. Let's try this. Let's try this. Let's try this. And we've got more things, I think, to try. Something I do want to bring up for your listeners is there are people out there that advertise themselves as a night nurse. And that term is a very old term that from a really long time ago that is kind of just sticking around. It does not mean that that person is actually a nurse. So I just want people to be aware
Thank you for this.
Of that difference in terminology. So if you are looking for a nurse, and then this also is where I think are more of a benefit, we can actually do nursing things as well. So if you had a baby that came home from the NICU with a feeding tube, or with wounds and the dressings need to be changed, that's just a whole nother level of scary for a brand new parent. So that's something that we are qualified to help you with and, show you how to do it, help you do it, and kind of get you more comfortable with doing those things also.
And so an actual qualified RN night nurse, would this nurse stay with the new parent overnight?
Yes. So we can stay overnight. We'll have a whole conversation preferably even before the baby comes, to find out what your plans are. Do you want to breastfeed? Do you want to bottle feed? If you're wanting to breastfeed, do you want us to get the baby up and bring them to you when they're hungry and then take them back again? It's figuring out where we fit in to what you need. But we have in the past done kind of 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. type thing where we will just take care of the baby so that parents can sleep. It sounds very luxurious. I have a friend who's like, that sounds very bougie. But I came over to her house one time and she got some sleep and she's like, oh, okay, that was amazing. And that was really worth it.
Oh, I can
Sleep,
imagine.
sleep deprivation is just awful and it affects every part of your brain and your body and
Oh
just
yeah,
makes
your hormones, your circadian
ev-
rhythm. I mean, everything is affected. And I'm sure if
everything.
you're not getting enough sleep, it's probably also going to be reactive in the mother's milk as well, correct?
Mom's milk is incredible stuff. It is incredible stuff. And if you are breastfeeding, the baby's saliva and just their mouth being on your nipple sends messages to your body to let your body know if the baby needs more fat, needs more calories, needs,
Wow.
some change in the composition of the milk. Yeah, it's this crazy like magic that happens with all these hormones and things. So yeah, we want to, like I said, we want the more we all can be like in a lower stress state, the
Right.
better it's going to be for everyone. I mean, everyone's telling us, right? We're killing ourselves with stress right now.
Yes.
So let's start working on it with the babies and try and keep everything a little less stressful.
I think this is incredible. And what about postpartum depression? Do you ever come around for a woman or I'm sorry, not just a woman, just anyone that just
A
had a
parent.
baby, a
Yes.
parent. There you go. Thank you. And if they're experiencing postpartum depression and they need you, let's say 3 months down the line, are you able to help or is this newborn straight out of the hospital only?
We specialize in newborn straight out of the hospital,
Mhm.
but that does not mean that we can't help or that we can't find you some help if you need
Okay,
help later.
I see.
But I'm glad you brought up the postpartum depression because when we do home visits, that is something we're keeping our eye on kind of peripherally, is keeping an eye on mom, asking how, oh, look, I did it too. Keeping an eye on the parents.
Sure.
Postpartum depression can happen in men as well, uh, whether they're, same-sex men couples or just a single man who's married to a woman, hetero, it doesn't matter, but they're showing men can also experience postpartum depression. So keeping an eye on the parents, seeing how they're sleeping, are they eating, are they taking care of themselves? And just trying to, yeah, help keep an eye on and see if we notice anything that we're concerned about.
I find this interesting. So men can also get postpartum depression.
They can.
So it's not mutually exclusive to a female. Why is this?
That's a great question. And it's fairly new research that's coming out on this. And so I've not
Mhm.
taken as deep a dive into it yet as I will, as I need to.
Uh-huh.
But I think it has a lot to do with just synergy of energies, right? And if
Mhm.
if mom and dad are both around the baby all the time, and maybe it has to do with something coming off of mom, or maybe it just has to do with, dad's own insecurities or fear with the baby, or, I'm not entirely sure.
Or even lack of sleep, as you're saying.
Lack of sleep is definitely going to play a part in all of these things.
Because even with
So,
just anybody, lack of sleep can cause depression.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, and sometimes too, like maybe there were already signs of depression happening, but during a pregnancy, everyone's supposed to be so happy and, or you don't want to deal with it before the baby comes because you have too many other things going on. So there's a lot of reasons that
Mhm,
depression can come into play.
mhm.
But again, I think just the postpartum period is so overwhelming that it's easy to lose yourself. It's easy to not be paying attention to what's going on with you or your partner. And it's easy to just, like you said, not sleep, not eat.
Right.
And if you're in a state of stress all the time, that's not good for you either. So there's
Oh,
a
yeah,
lot
I
of
can
factors.
imagine. What's the
Yeah.
period of time that's considered postpartum?
Postpartum. There's a couple different levels of postpartum. So there's one called the baby blues. It's not technically postpartum depression. Baby blues tends to happen
Mhm.
fairly close to delivery, right after delivery. So when you get home, starting right around then. Postpartum depression can sometimes not start for a few weeks or even sometimes a couple of months. And that's the hard thing too, is I think people are only looking for it right away when they get home, but it definitely can pop up later. So it's something that, and really the OBs, the obstetricians need to be keeping an eye on it as well
Mhm.
when these parents are coming back for their visits after the babies.
And what helps parents from postpartum depression?
If it's actual postpartum depression, you're going to need professional help. So you may need to get on some antidepressants, psychotherapy. is always, always, always a great idea. Honestly, all parents should go to
Yeah,
go to
sure,
therapy just for
sure.
parenting. There's a
Definitely. Oh
huge
my goodness.
transition. Yeah, you're not your own self anymore. Part of you is your child, and so you can't focus solely on yourself. You have to focus on the child, which means you're going to be ignoring something of your own. So so much transitioning is happening, but therapy is a lot of help. If you have people around you that are supportive and that you can lean on and ask for help, that's huge, even if you don't have postpartum depression, but especially if you do. And yeah, medication. It typically can be addressed and taken care of, but unfortunately, it sometimes falls on the person who's experiencing it to reach out for that help.
Oh yeah.
So we're trying to get more, that's why we try and get more information out there to the people around you. It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell. I've
Yeah.
been diagnosed with depression as well a long time ago.
Mhm.
And it sneaks up on you in a way that you don't always recognize it's happening. I'm just super extra tired and I just think, oh, I'm just not sleeping well enough. And then, oh, I don't really want to make dinner, even though I love to cook. I don't want to make dinner anymore. It's probably just because I'm tired. We're so quick to dismiss things. So postpartum depression, can happen weeks or months after the baby, but it can be treated, but somebody needs to recognize that something is off or different and needs to reach out for help.
And if
So,
postpartum depression does not get treated, how long can that last on its own without therapy or medication?
I think it can last forever. And I think I don't know the exact point where they stop calling it postpartum. And it kind of just becomes depression. I don't know, to be honest. I mean, that's a great question of when it becomes no longer postpartum and is just depression, but depression can
Right,
go on
right.
forever and ever and ever.
Sure.
And not treated can, obviously there can be very awful outcomes.
Oh
So,
yeah, definitely.
yeah.
And what about the baby blues that you were talking about? That usually happens within a couple days.
Yeah, that's
What
usually
are the
that
baby
usually
blues?
yeah, so baby blues is kind of like a more mild form of depression, maybe we should say, and it tends to be more of a it's more that realization of like, oh my God, my life is going to be so different now. Like, what did we do? It's kind of more of that like panic, and I
Uh-huh.
don't mean, I'm not trying to dismiss it and,
Sure,
I'm
sure,
laughing, but
sure.
it's still a serious thing, but it's not
That's
quite to
true.
the level of, you don't necessarily need, immediate medication, psychotherapy, like all of that kind of
Right.
stuff. So baby blues
It's
is
kind
going
of
to be
like
a
a
lot.
reality check.
It's kind of more of a reality check, I think. I really do. And it still is going to cause symptoms that are awful. And again, like I said, I'm not
Sure.
trying to minimize anything. Baby
Right.
blues can be much more prevented or addressed with your village, your people that are around you, that can help you, that can support you. Baby blues might be helped a lot more by asking your neighbor to come watch the baby so you can go take a 1 hour nap, that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Right.
Whereas postpartum depression, a 1 hour nap is not going to really make you feel that much better.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So those are kind of the main differences.
I find a real big challenge with single mothers, or just single dads, single parents,
Mhm.
and what I've seen too is that they really have a difficult time asking for help.
Yes, I know. And people
Mhm.
in general, a lot of people do.
Yeah.
And I think part of that, I mean, if you're a single parent, we don't know the situation of how you became single, but if you chose it to begin with, I feel like there's a little bit of pride in there. Like, I need to show everyone that I can do it. Because undoubtedly they met people that were like, why would you do this? You're supposed to have two parents and blah, 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 all that
That's
BS.
true.
So I think there's a kind of more of a stake for them to like show that they can do it. Well, the thing is, two parent households can't do it on their own either.
Mhm.
So it's finding the people, like I said, that you trust. And maybe it's a friend or a neighbor, it could be family, maybe it's not family, but finding the people that, number one, you can ask for help. Number two, that you trust, that you can say anything to. The other, I also sometimes I like to flip it around because I was one of those people, I didn't like to ask for help, but I love when people ask me for help. I love to be able to help other people, right? So if you don't ask me for help, you're depriving me of the joy I get from helping you, which is very
It's a
selfish.
gift.
But if you think of it that way, like, we don't want to burden other people, but there are other people that are literally standing there waiting to help
Yeah.
us.
They want to
Like,
help.
They want to help. I told you, I hand me a crying baby. I love the challenge of like, let's see what it's going to take to make this baby calm down. So you are being driven crazy by this crying baby. Like, call me. I will come over and take care of your crying baby for you happily. It makes me happy. And you can have a moment to yourself.
Danika, I'm curious about the whole baby whisper thing. You said, hand me a crying baby, and most likely you will know how to handle it than the parent. Do you feel that you're more intuitive with the baby's energy and you kind of just know instinctively what the baby needs?
I think that's part of it. I think there's definitely is a big intuitive part. Like we said, I was made to do this. So I do have that intuitiveness, but I also have learned to look for all the little signs, right? So babies can't talk with their voices, but when they do certain hand motions, it means something. Or if you watch their facial expressions, or if you feel the tenseness of their body. So there's a lot of signs and parents will eventually most likely learn these signs. But the problem is when you're a new parent or a new baby, you get panicked too fast. You don't want them to cry. You want them to stop crying, and you feel like you have to hurry and figure it out. Whereas I know if I hold the baby nice and contained, they're going to be more comfortable because they don't want the freedom, right? If I talk in a soothing voice, okay, I am not a fan of high-pitched baby talk, because the energy that goes along with that is high pitch energy, right? So if you're coming in like, oh my God, it's okay, it's okay. Oh, I just stress myself out doing that. Okay. The energy is high. But if I'm like, oh, it's okay, bug. I always call my babies bug. It's okay, bug. We'll figure out what's going on. I got you. We're fine. We're fine. Just the tone of voice is different. My body language is different. My body energy is different. Things are always easier when they're not yours, right? Situations are easier I can give you advice all day long. I can't fix my own problems, but I can give you advice all day long. So it's easier for me. I think sometimes I'm a little more removed. I'm okay with your baby crying for another minute while I figure out what's going on. Whereas you are just like, we need to stop the crying right now,
Right.
So.
Rather than stopping the crying right then, right there at that moment, it's best to remain calm with a calm voice and try to feel into what the baby needs at the moment.
Yeah. There's really only a few things they need, right? They need to eat. Some babies really hate having dirty diapers. So some of them will scream bloody murder because they pooped. And they need to feel safe. Really, those are essentially the big three things. Safety is love for them. They need to feel safe. So if they are being held in a way that feels safe, they're with a person that they feel safe with, they're going to be okay. They're going to calm down.
I love this. Even I'm feeling calm as you're saying this.
Good. I'm glad.
So we often hear the word maternal instincts.
Yes.
Have you had new parents that did not have this quote unquote maternal instinct?
Yes. Although I will say, I think they had it. I just don't think they were able to tap into it.
Can you elaborate?
So I think again, I think every parent, now there also is evidence showing paternal instinct. Okay. So not just the mamas, but the daddies too. The maternal instinct partially comes from you physically had a tie with that baby for up to 9 months, but again, it's really paying attention to your baby and really looking for and noticing the little signs that your baby is giving you that they need something. If you are too anxious, overwhelmed, stressed out, you're not going to be able to do that. So that's why I think people feel like, I don't have any maternal instinct. The other thing about maternal instinct is there is a loving warmness that some people have. Like, I love little babies. I want them all the time. There are other people that are like, kind of want to get through the newborn stage, and I want them to
I've heard that many times.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I want them to be 3 already. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and that's fine. I know people like that. It doesn't mean they don't have maternal instinct.
Sure.
And I think people use that term just so generally that if you're not feeling really super loving towards your newborn, you say you don't have maternal instinct, but I don't think that's true. I think maternal instinct is the instinct that a parent has to know what their child needs. So, and I do think it is there. But
love
whether or
this.
not you can tap into it is a whole different issue.
Which is why it wouldn't matter if the parent there was a surrogate involved or not, because at the
Right.
time what it really matters is the word instinct actually comes from knowing how to care for this baby, whether you gave birth to the baby or not.
Right.
I
Now,
understand. Okay.
this brings up this, but we're going into whole new territory now as well with
Okay.
surrogacy. You brought up surrogacy.
Okay.
And one of the Kardashians, I'm not a huge follower, so I don't know which one. I'm so sorry. One of the Kardashians just started speaking up about having a baby via surrogacy and not feeling warmth and love toward that baby and struggling with bonding with that baby.
Mhm.
So this is new territory. Surrogacy
Okay.
is still new, you know.
Mhm.
It's been around for a while, but not very accepted and not very out there. So
Sure.
so again, I think that she has the ability to bond with that child and to have that instinct, but it might take time. And that's going to be based on everyone's individual journey to get to
Mhm.
where they are. How did they get this child? What was that experience like? Were you close to the surrogate parent? Were you not close to the surrogate, or gestational carrier? There's a lot of factors that go into it. It just gets more complex.
Mhm.
So I love that she's talking about it because I think there's so many people, so many things we're not talking about, obviously.
Sure.
But just because you're not feeling it right away, immediately, doesn't mean that number one, there's anything wrong with you. Two, doesn't mean you're not going to be able to do this. And number three, doesn't mean that those things and feelings won't develop. It's
So
just
true.
it's gonna look different. I mean, the whole thing is different. It's
Right.
so you're not on the same journey that some heterosexual couple that just, got married and had a baby and had a kid. It's
Right.
not the same journey. So it's
That's
not going to
true.
look the same. And I think people need to be number one, more understanding. And then again, have your village, have your people that you can talk to, that you can be honest with and say, hey, I'm really not feeling loving toward this child. Is there something wrong with me?
Mm.
And have someone there that can say, no, there's not something wrong with you. We just have to figure out your journey with this baby. That's it.
Mhm.
There's a learning curve. It's fine.
I love this, Danica. So it doesn't even have to do with gender, because you can have two gay fathers, and they can have their paternal instincts,
Absolutely.
or they can or they can't. So it's really individualistic at this point.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there tends to be one parent more so than the other that has the warm, fuzzy,
Sure.
feelings toward the babies. Um, but yeah, it's okay if it's not there. You can still be a great parent.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. So what are some skills that people don't think of when they think of newborn care?
So my favorite one to talk about is swaddling.
Oh,
Okay. So, wrapping them up like a burrito.
yeah.
Everyone, all us nurses, we can do it with our eyes closed. Parents are like, "What? That takes forever to figure out. It takes a while to learn how to do." Here's the thing that I want to bring up. And I actually was just listening to a webinar this morning about the same thing too. Everyone wants to wrap the babies with their arms straight down by their sides, like a straight jacket. Okay. But if you ask parents about the ultrasounds they had during pregnancy, so many times
Usually
they're like,
this,
oh,
right?
my baby always had a hand up. Oh, my
Yeah,
baby,
yeah,
sure.
yeah. Right,
Yeah.
right. Their hands are up
Okay.
here like
So
this.
if your baby spent 9 months in utero like this,
Yeah.
why would I take that hand away and force it down by their side?
Makes
They're not
sense.
going to be happy. This having a hand up, both hands up, whatever they did, sucking thumbs,
Sure.
that's how they self-soothed. In utero, they even self-soothe. So if we take that ability away from them now that they're out here in this free world where they don't want to be, where it's cold and loud and bright and, then we're causing stress. So it's okay to swaddle with one or both hands up. What we do is bring midline meaning, middle of your body,
Uh-huh.
and then do everything else the same. Swaddle nice and tight around the shoulders. It can be looser around the legs. But I mean, if you have a baby that even when you swaddle them, they just wiggle the whole time, I guarantee you they're going to want a handout and they'll be much more comfortable that way.
And usually for how long would a parent do that? Again, also 2 weeks, kind of like the whole bath thing.
It's kind of like
Works.
a
Oh,
swaddling, the amount of
it all.
swaddling time, month or two, maybe. I
Okay.
don't know. We'll see. again, every baby's different. I also met a lady one time and she said her baby in utero was always holding on to the umbilical cord.
Wow.
So yeah. So when he came out and they tried to swaddle him, he was like, there's nothing to hold on to. And he was freaking out.
Wow.
So they got him a toy or something. It was like I think she said like a jellyfish or something that had like a long, tentacle or something.
Uh-huh.
And the second they gave it to him, he grabbed onto it and he would fall asleep.
Wow,
Because
that's beautiful.
that's what he was used to doing. I know. Isn't it great? It's
It
fascinating.
really
It's
is
so
fascinating.
fascinating to me. But that, again, that's part of learning your baby and learning
Sure.
what they need and what they want and what's going to help them. And when you help them, you help yourself. If your baby's calm, you're going to have more time to yourself. So it helps everybody.
What about the first few nights, the first couple weeks or so, or even the first month in a baby? Should the baby be sleeping overnight, the whole night in their little bassinet swaddled as well?
Okay, there's lots of parts to that. Some of those answers are yes and some are no. You can swaddle your baby and put them in their bassinet until they start rolling over or until they start breaking out of the swaddle. Once one of those things happen, then you don't swaddle them anymore when they go to bed. Put them in their jammies and just put them to bed.
Okay.
They do need to be in their own bed, bassinet, crib, whatever. They should not be sleeping in bed with you. Now, there's a lot of disagreement on this. There's the reason for them not to is so that there's no chance of you accidentally rolling onto them or them accidentally suffocating in your pillows or something like that.
Right.
Now, the flip side of that, and I don't want any hate mail because I can see both sides.
Sure.
If you have your baby in bed with you, there's more time for you to do skin to skin, more bonding, that kind of stuff. So, but research is saying, by themselves. They should not be sleeping straight through the night right off the bat. And here's why. Their tummies are tiny when they first come home from the hospital. The first day they're born, their tummies are like the size of a big marble. So I always tell parents, your baby should be eating about every 3 hours, okay? Because their tummies aren't big enough to have a huge meal. They're not having 3 huge meals a day. They need to snip. They need to have lots of little meals every 3 hours. Okay. That is nighttime too. Your body doesn't stop using calories when you sleep, right? So the baby, if they're sleeping all night long, I mean, we're like, woohoo, I slept through the night, but your baby has now not eaten for 8 hours or 10 hours or whatever it is. And because they're little, they can dehydrate quickly. Once they dehydrate, they've got more risk for jaundice, which is the yellowing of the skin, which could end up in hospitalization. They could have decreased urinary output. They could get constipated. Like there's all kinds of other stuff that can happen if they start getting dehydrated. So that's definitely one of those things that like people are so proud when their baby finally starts sleeping through the night. And there is a time it is appropriate, but really not for the first 5 months ish. Again, everyone's going to be different. 3 to 5 months, 4 or 5 months. It depends on the baby, but they should not be sleeping all the way through.
No wonder new parents are just so sleep deprived.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, every little thing that the babies do as they're growing and developing is a building block for the next skill that they need to develop. So, we say babies, they roll over first and then they sit up and then they crawl and then they walk. Well, if you have a baby that goes from sitting to walking and they never crawled in the middle, there's going to be some skills that are missing later on when they try to do some other things.
Like what?
So, you shouldn't have brought that up, but you're going to ask me. No, most likely, it's most likely going to be. I'm not a physical therapist, and this is really physical therapy territory.
Oh, that makes sense. So it's like muscle development
and muscle development, bone structure, all that kind of stuff.
That makes sense.
So when you're in coordination, coordinating a crawl is different coordination than coordinating a walk. So
exactly.
All that stuff. Everything builds on something else. So, and sleeping through the night is it's one of those things. We need to make sure that they are eating consistently, so they are growing consistently. The other thing is, and this is kind of a new trend as well. Back to Sleep is the program that was started by some governmental agency to try and increase safety for babies while they sleep. Back to Sleep means their babies should be on their backs when they're sleeping. Okay. Well, now babies are getting flat heads because they're always on their backs.
Right.
Well, if you're getting your baby up every 3 hours to feed them, then they're not on their backs the whole entire night. You know what I mean?
That
So
makes
little
sense.
things like that. If you're keeping feeding your baby on schedule and getting them out of the crib every once in a while. And when you're holding them, you can feed them on their sides. And there's different things you can do to help make sure that that development is happening more symmetrically, more evenly,
Mhm.
and not just having a baby laying on their back all night long and getting a flat head.
What about mothers who are not able to breastfeed? What's the best supplement?
There's a couple different things. If you can't breastfeed, we'd have to look into the reasons why. So if you are able to produce milk but are not able to breastfeed, then pumping and giving that breast milk is the best for the baby. And I want to clarify this, okay?
Okay.
It's best for the baby because your body, again, knows what your baby's body needs, can adjust accordingly, also passes along antibodies and immunoglobulins and all these other things that are good for the baby. That being said, it is not worth a mother running herself ragged trying to pump. Pumping is a full-time job. It is a
Mhm.
full-time job. Okay. You pump for a half hour. You have to wash all the parts of your pump. You got to put the milk in the fridge. It's now probably been 3 hours and your baby's about to wake up and eat. You feed your baby, you get them back down, you wash all the bottles and stuff. You have to start pumping again. It literally is a full-time job. Some women have the time and the ability and the desire to do that, and some do not. And that's okay. And so I don't want anyone to feel bad about giving formula to their baby.
Right.
If you can't do it, if you don't want to do it, it's more important the baby gets fed. Let's work on getting the baby fed and making sure that you are not driving yourself into depression or anxiety or losing your mind over
Right.
trying to do something that just isn't working for you and your family.
Sure.
Yeah.
What if there
So,
was a surrogate involved?
so anytime there's a surrogacy, there are contracts involved, and that's all stated in the contracts ahead of time between the carrier, so the person who's actually pregnant, and the parents who are going to be, having the baby. Some surrogates will offer to pump and provide that breast milk. Maybe that surrogate's not willing or able to do that, and maybe the parents are fine with just using formula, and that's fine too. There are some people that produce lots and lots and lots of breast milk, and they will sell it. I think you can find it on Craigslist. I don't know that I would recommend doing that. But there are organizations you can buy breast milk from that has been donated by somebody and gone through testing and stuff, but it can be very expensive. So there are some options out there, and it used, breast is best. That was the quote for a really long time. Breast is best. And hospitals were doing everything they could to get everyone to only breastfeed. And parents were ending up in tears. This poor mama who was trying to breastfeed, and maybe something about her anatomy makes it more difficult. Maybe the baby's just not latching, and now she's frustrated and she's sad and she thinks there's something wrong with her. She thinks her baby doesn't like her. And I'm like, okay, let's take a step back. Let's take a breath. Let's give one bottle. And just because you give one bottle doesn't mean you can't breastfeed anymore. Okay.
Right.
There's ways to work around all of it. So it's just a matter of really finding out what the parents want to do, what their plan is and what they want to do long term, and then seeing how we can help them achieve that and maintain their sanity, really.
And if a parent decides to go formula only, what are the best options?
I'm not going to recommend any specific formula. But there are many out there that are very reputable companies. There's Similac and Enfamil are two names that I think almost everybody knows. Actually, during COVID, formula got really, really, really hard to find.
I remember.
Yeah. It was being
awful.
locked up. You couldn't get more than one at a time. Sometimes the shelves were bare I had friends of mine that were parents that were just absolutely panicking because they're like, I can't breastfeed. I only bottle feed and I can't get formula for my kid. So people were trying to make homemade formulas. Don't recommend that. People were giving their babies cow's milk. Don't recommend that either. Like regular milk from the store. Their bodies can't digest that very well. They're not going to get the nutrition out of it that they need to. The FDA actually put out a list of acceptable formulas from other countries for a while. I think it might still be available on the FDA website. And because there were I know a lot of people were getting formula from Germany. I don't remember the name of it. It doesn't really matter. But there are a lot of options out there at this point. Goat milk formula is not recommended by some pediatricians. Other pediatricians are okay with it. So if you're going to go with something that is not a traditional formula, then just make sure and talk to your pediatrician, talk to someone who knows to make sure that you have all the information before you
That
make
makes
that
sense,
decision.
Danica. Thank you for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I want to go back to surrogates, because as we were talking about this right now with the whole, um, as far as you brought up the Kardashians and stuff and the feelings that she was getting at, something that came to my mind is, do surrogates experience postpartum themselves?
Oh, that's a great question. Oh, that's a great question. I'm sure that they probably do. I have not looked that up specifically, but I'm sure that they do. So postpartum depression definitely can be biological, it can be hormonal, it can be genetic. If you're genetically predispositioned to depression, then, we'll keep an extra eye on the postpartum. So absolutely, anyone involved can get it. I think traditionally it has been the person who has given birth is the one that everyone is watching, and it um, tends to experience it most severely. It's just recently we've even been finding out that the partner also can.
Right.
So it is typically, traditionally, historically, the one that we focus on has been the one that actually gave birth to the baby.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which in that case means that, yes, the surrogate can definitely get
Yeah.
this postpartum depression.
Yeah.
So interesting. It's fascinating too.
It is fascinating. It really is. I could talk babies all day long.
So I have a question. It's not about human babies, but I'm
Okay.
curious.
Okay.
Since you're a baby whisperer and you have this natural instinct to take care of human babies, do you get the same instinct with like puppies and kittens and baby
Oh,
birds and stuff?
oh yeah. I'm a
So
sucker for
anything that's
baby
a
animals.
newborn, you get these feelings and you want to take
I
care of
do.
them.
Absolutely. If I'm like doom scrolling, and just hanging out, all the videos I'm watching are babies and puppies, babies
Yeah.
and animals. Yeah. There's something about, I think it's something about the innocence of little animals,
Yeah.
right? All they know is like, there's my mama
Yeah.
and I want to eat. Like that's
Yeah.
kind of all they know. And I think there's just something so endearing about that. And I just want to help all those people. I want to help the babies. I want to help the animals. I want to help all the things. So I absolutely get that with animals for sure.
My mom just got a puppy last week and little Spanky, and
Oh,
he's about 2 months
oh,
old. And yeah, the automatic, I guess, paternal feelings that I had holding this baby, this little
yeah,
puppy, and he's just licking my face and just like the puppy breath and
yeah,
his little belly, he barely eats anything, and his belly expands. He's just so beautiful. And
yeah,
I love the feeling myself.
yeah. It's addicting. It's addicting.
It really is. And the same with baby birds. I get the same thing. I was looking at baby birds the other day. There was a nest outside and they were just born. And then within 2 weeks, they're learning their first flight. And I was in tears.
Yep.
Why am I crying seeing these babies fly for the first time? These little baby birds, but it really is the innocence, the purity.
Yep.
It's magical and it's a miracle. And it's like a flower blooming for the first time.
Hmm.
It's essence, it's pure essence, is in its purest form at that moment. It's
Absolutely.
really beautiful.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, the fact that you could start with two, tiny little microscopic things and a human, comes from that and grows in your stomach for 9 months or 6 or however many, and then one day, boom, it's here.
It's really
With a
fascinating.
personality, I'll tell you. Working in the NICU with even the preemies, the ones that are born so 40 weeks gestation is considered full term, right?
Mhm.
We can now keep babies alive and have a good life at 23 weeks,
That's
which
incredible.
is tiny, tiny, tiny. Even I will tell you, the 23 weekers, 24 weekers, 26 weekers, those kids have some attitude. They have personality already that you
Really?
see. Absolutely. Absolutely.
What do you mean by
Absolutely.
that? What do you see?
There are, it tends to be the little girls. They
And they're
tend to
like
be
2 pounds
feisty.
at that moment? Under 2 pounds?
Maybe 2 pounds, maybe two
Wow.
pounds. And they are fighting. They don't want you to put that IV in. They're like, or they're grabbing at their tubes. They're like, no, I don't want that. Oh, no, and then just, I don't know, little things like,
You said mostly the little girls?
Little girls tend to be a little feistier than the little boys for some reason. But yeah, they have a preference for sleeping. They want to be on their left side. They don't want to be on their right side. I took care of a little guy the other day, did not like to be on his back. The second you put him on his back, he was like, and as soon as I turned him to his side,
Oh,
fell right to sleep, just like this. It was so cute.
sweet. So adorable.
Yeah. The other thing that cracks me up is, and this is more with the full term babies. No, actually in the NICU too. Sometimes you'll have a baby that like always sleeps like this, one arm's up, or they're always like this or whatever. Even though we try to swaddle them, they'll get one out. And I'll ask the parents, do either of you guys sleep like that? And they're like, oh yeah, that one. He does.
Wow.
Guarantee. It is a genetic thing. The way you sleep,
Incredible.
these babies will sleep like one of you sleep. Like a foot out or an arm out or like
Yeah.
this. I love it. Those little things I think are just fascinating.
They really are fascinating.
Yeah.
Hey, Danica, what's one important thing that you think all new parents should know? I'm sure, I mean, you just said a load of important things,
I
but what's
know.
something you would like to leave the audience with?
I would like to leave the audience with, you know what? I'm gonna phrase it as be curious. Be
Be
curious
curious.
about your new baby. Okay. Oh, I had a quote. I wanted to say this quote. It was Jason
Yes.
Bateman. I heard say this quote the other day, and it's confidence comes on the backside of accomplishment. Okay. You don't have to be confident going into parenthood. You'll gain the confidence as you go and as you get to learn these little things about your baby. So be curious. Approach your
Yes.
baby with a curious eye. I can easy for me to say, don't be scared of it, but try to, if the baby's crying, it's a challenge. Okay.
Sure.
Let's see if we can figure out why the baby's crying as opposed to, oh my God, the baby's crying. We have to stop it right away. Okay,
Right.
let's see. Let's go through our list. Is he hungry? When's the last time he ate? Oh, let's check his diaper. Is he poopy? If you look at it as a challenge and you're curious about it, then maybe that will help you a little bit be able to take a breath, and
Definitely.
not get so stressed out that everyone's exhausted all the time. So be
That's
curious.
awesome, especially if you look at your newborn with curiosity, then you're going to actually be more in the present moment and you're going to be more relaxed
Hmm.
and more inquisitive
Yeah.
and just, like you said right now, less stress.
Yeah. And honestly, this is thinking way down the line, but like, do you want your kids to be curious too? I wanted my kids to be curious.
Sure.
So you start now, be curious about your kid. And then as they get older, you guys can be curious together. Like age 2 to 3 is my favorite because that's really, well, other than newborn. But that's when they start getting curious about the world.
So
That's when they're
curious.
asking why, right?
Yeah.
Why? And it drives us crazy. But if you just recognize that curiosity, then, it's so much easier to deal with. And you can answer the why. They're asking why because they're curious, not because they're trying to kill you with whys. But yeah, I think curiosity, man, curiosity is kind of, you keep it in mind for everything.
It really is. A curious mind is a beautiful mind.
Absolutely. I agree.
Donica, how can our new parents find you if they need you?
Just scream out your window, help me.
Yeah.
So we have a website. It is babystepsnursing.com. That's really the best way. Go to Baby Steps. Baby Steps is concierge nursing is the name of our company. But you can go there. There's an inquire tab. You can shoot us a little message, whether it's just a question, whether you want us to come out and help you, whatever it is. We're happy to help. If you have questions about something you heard on the podcast, we'd love to get in touch with you. So that's really the best way.
Danika Sanchez, everybody here on a Little Less Fear podcast, babystepsnursing.com, Baby Whisper, newborn education professional RN. This has been really, really amazing. This is the first time I've ever interviewed a baby whisperer or
All
an expert on
right.
newborn. So this was really fascinating and it gets me excited to become a parent. I'm not a parent and I'm really looking forward to being a father one day. I mean, I have dreams about it.
That's
Holding my
awesome.
new child. Actually the dream that I have often, Danica, is that I'm with my wife. I'm not married, but in my dream, I have a wife, and I say, and it's more than one dream. I've had this dream many times,
Mm-hmm.
and the baby's born. They put the baby on my chest, and I'm weeping with this love for this new little body that I'm about to take care of. And
Yeah.
and sometimes when I sleep in and I wake up in tears thinking about it, and I can't wait for that moment. I know it's going to happen, and it's just going to
Yeah.
be one of the most beautiful things, and I want to be ready for it.
It is.
I want to
It
be
is. And
ready
it's
for it.
it's amazing that you are dreaming with that depth of emotion because, anyone who's pregnant right now, everyone's telling you it'll change your life. You've never loved like this before. And you keep hearing it and you're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. But that's what happens. It's not until literally that baby is born and put on your chest, or you see that baby put on someone's chest, your heart just feels like it's going to explode. It really does.
I can already feel it. And
I
so,
can tell. I know.
yeah,
It makes me cry.
I'm feeling emotional just talking about this, but I'm really looking forward to that day. And I'm just really grateful here that we connected. Danika Sanchez, everybody. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for sharing your love, light, and your warmth and your beautiful energy towards these new babies. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This has been awesome. And
Thank
good
you
luck
so
to
much.
you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Mhm.
Thank you all so much for tuning in to the Dr. Lino Show, A Little Less Fear podcast. If you'd like to get a hold of me, you can do so by sending me an email at alittlelessfear@gmail.com or through an inquiry from my website at www.alittlelessfear.com, where you will always find information on where to get my book. You can get my book on Amazon and Amazon paperback version, Kindle or Kindle Unlimited. And I also create incredible visual video poetry for people that are interested in marketing or even just to send a personal note to anybody or somebody that you might love. So yeah, check it out. I love it. Poetry is my passion, one of my other passions, aside from doing what I do right now, which is giving you all the motivation that you need to keep growing, to keep motivating people, motivating yourself, and to keep expanding. I love you all so much. Have a blessed day and take care. Rock on.